Everybody, and welcome to another exciting Shaper 3D webinar. Today, as Anna announced, I will show you the process how to reverse engineer like a product. For example, if something's broken or you want to modify it. So what is here the different process? The objects we will recreate are these three nice models. It's actually a magnetic door lock for securing cabinets. And they actually exhibit a really nice variety of different shapes. For example, something that is more flat, like the bracket, something more round, that's the knob, and like the door piece, which is more spherical. Something I tell my students every time when they want to build something, break what you see down into visual, simple objects, to smaller problems. Obviously, for this type of reverse engineering, what you really need to have is at least a caliper. And also via 3D photogrammetry, you can create three-dimensional models from which then you could create side views. So I will show you actually both, rebuilding something based on just only measurements, and then also how, for example, we could create something based on images. So let's start with this very basic bracket. I have this one here, so this is what we will recreate. Start a new design. And what's the easiest part to start? Well, not that rotated extruded piece on top, but just a flat base. And what I want to point out here, I do not see a rectangle with rounded edges and a hole. I just see a rectangle. So that makes it very easy to measure. So I power up my caliper, and this one is, let's say, 3950 by 19. Very good. Let's go to top view. Before we continue, make sure that you have the correct measurement system, millimeters. So 19 millimeters, I'm gonna just draw some lines here. I just do it crooked on purpose. So you see, I simply block this out really fast. 19 millimeters. Then this line I will make horizontal. This line I will make horizontal. These other two lines are vertical. And then what was this one? 3970. So 3970. Very good. So there we have it. Again, I mentioned this, or I said this a few times, try to make use of the grid as much as possible, which is why I modified this to 39.5. That makes it easier. And I can now drag this one around. And where do I place this? Well, I want to place this centered because I work with the grid and even numbers. Come on. I put this one to here, and you see it's a little bit tricky. I want this square perfectly centered. So I will use my old Goldie trick of just simply drawing a line from the center point to the midpoint, and then make this line horizontal. Same here, snap to the midpoint, lock this line, make this one vertical. Very good. Okay, so now we have this rectangle. The rounded corners, I will actually not model in the sketch. I want the sketch to be very basic because that makes adjustments much, much easier. The holes, however, yeah, that's something I can put into the sketch. So also here, let's measure. That's around, let's say, 4 millimeters. So I can go to here, make myself a circle and a circle somewhere and say, this is a radius of 2. And these two circles, I would like to be the same. So I set the equal sign. With the equal constraint, if I adjust the radius here, you see the other circle follows it. So we don't have to link actually the dimensions. We simply solve this equation via the equal constraint. So Now we need to figure out the distance from the edge to the start of the circle, 2.5. So how do we do this? There we can use lines again. Make this line horizontal, 2.5. This is to here, and then this is a 4 radius, so this is 4.5. Because it's basically the distance from there to the start of the ring, but because I draw the line till the center of the circle, I have to add the radius of the circle. Then we can work on the top part. How much is this? That is 4.5, so 6.5. 6.5. Very good. And here to do the same, I make this, and then I select these two lines and say equal, and select, whoops, this line and equal. Very good. And there's a little unwanted line. Bye-bye. Cool. So my base plate is actually done. Let's measure the thickness. The whole thing is 3 millimeters, and then this is around 2.5. 3 or 3.5, so 2.5 and 1. Okay. So I will select this, and go 2.5 millimeters up. And I mentioned before, try to break stuff down into logical steps. When do you do what? So, because I have to build also that compressible material below, I will now first round actually these edges by selecting these edges and then swiping to the correct area. Let's say these should be 3. And then I can use the extrude command. Can also make a new group. I will explain this in a second why. Select the bottom part, okay, and say 1 millimeter. So now there I have my 2 parts. I have 2 groups because we can now then separate everything. So let's say this is the spacer and this is our blocker. Because I have the same color, it's difficult to see everything. So the top one I make white. Very good. Super easy, as you see. Good. This one we can hide. So how do we continue? Now we have a piece here on top that is not only extruded but slightly shifted. So essentially it's just a rectangle, and then we cut the sides. So what I need to know is how wide is this rectangle? 20. And how deep is this rectangle? Looks like 7.5. So this I can put on this face. So I will start drawing a line, touch actually this edge. You will see that this then projects in the lines. You see, really nice. This line I don't need anymore. This one will make horizontal. This is okay, perpendicular there, horizontal, and then we set this is 7.5 and let's say 20. Okay. Also here we would like this to be centered. We have a midpoint and midpoint, so I can simply connect a line and then do it this way instead of from here to here work with dimensions. In my sketches, I always try to put in the bare minimum because the less I have in a sketch, the easier it is to modify and understand these sketches. Okay, so how deep? Well, let's measure. That whole thing goes, what, 3.5 millimeters? Yeah. Yep, 3.4. So I select these two cubes, drag up 3.4. And because I'm extruding this from a sketch that is on the face of this first object, the object is actually joined. So we add it to it. Pretty cool. Now, how do we do these side cuts? Well, we have the surface. We can select it with the pencil. Finger double tap. Let's rotate this correctly. So let's measure, for example, how much is this? 4 millimeters. Here again, I just draw myself a line. So I project in these edges from here to here, 4 millimeters. Very good. And then this point, I move down to there. Now I only need to measure what's that distance there. So maybe 6.5. So I draw a line here, there, and then this to this is 6.5. So you want to try to find positions to measure. You can actually get also your caliper or your measurement tool too. And then we select these faces and extrude it away. And you see the system here that instantly in this case things, well, because I extrude into a volume, probably Claas wants to cut it away. That is correct. Cool. Okay, let's hide all these sketches. Materials got flipped a little bit, not a big deal. Let's go to not project, but color, and triple click, done. The last thing are now these openings. So how do we do this? Same thing. I can select this, but no, I made a mistake because this face is already angled. That's a little bit unfortunate. So I will go I undo my steps till I have this original piece, because there is actually my face. That face is flat. That makes it more easier to work with. And I'm just projecting in my edges there. Okay. So now I can redo this. Zip. Okay. And let's hide this. Good. Then these elements I remove. I will also hide the stuff I don't need. Very good. So this is the left and right vertical edge I projected in, and I have the correct plane. And all I need to do now is create two objects that are similar to it. This is now a very easy element to measure. So this is 6.25, no, 4.25, 4.25, very good. Then let's go to here, 6.4. Guys, I'm sorry, I just realized I did not move my mouse and you had the volume ping from QuickTime there. Sorry. Won't do this next time. And here, 2.27. Very good. So we have two measurements left. We actually only need one. So for example, measure this one, 3.8. 3.8. Very good. These two lines, for example, I can select and say equal. I could also have selected this one and this one. Let's make sure this is horizontal. When I move this point, woo, very good that I tried this out. You see how this line was getting crazy. So let's make this one vertical. And this line needs a vertical constraint. And I bring this one to there. Okay, so what's the, see now, this is kind of angled. That's tricky to get in. So 1.3. What about I measure the top? That's easier maybe to force my caliper in. 1.5. Okay, if something like this happens, you see that the lines move a little bit crazy, no? Then to fix this, because Shapey uses a sketch solver, and I made the mistake not making sure that these lines are correct, then we simply remove the dimension and we add them afterwards. So we said this is 1.5. Very good. And 4.2. 2.2. And this one here was 6.4. Very good. Okay, so with that done, now we can go to the blocker and select these two. Now we need to figure out what's the distance. So if I push this one in, 4.9, so type in 4.9 and extrude into it and cut the object. Now I can go ahead and assign the color, and there we are. See, not very complicated. Fillets, besides on the big edges here, but along the smaller edges, I do most times only when really the design is done, because these are like surface treatments. So when this is manufactured, you don't have sharp edges. They're not really defining the design, unlike, for example, this edge. So at this point now we could go ahead and add fillets, etc. And those who are also new to Shaper, just wanted to let you know again, Shaper is a direct modeling app. If we select this edge and this edge, take a look at this. We can always adjust fillets afterwards. So it's fully customizable. Pretty awesome. Okay, so that was this little funny thing. Let's take a look at this one. So this is a little bit more complicated because this is round. This is difficult to measure. I can measure, for example, the overall height, so 5.7. I can also measure maybe the width, but where do I measure it now? So chances are high I already start filling in inaccuracies. I could try to measure the length of the yellow part there. So this is then a case where if you have a laser digitizer or just an iPhone, just take photos. And I use various photogrammic apps to create these photos. I just kind of like pass around, and then it creates a 3D model. And that 3D model I can load into a 3D program, scale it, and then I make myself side views. So with side views, let me quickly go to here for a moment so I can show you what I mean. There are the two images. So if you bring over the images, it's also a good practice, like what I did here, to have a reference object. So I put in a square that's 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, which I can use to measure. So once I draw a rectangle and scale the image to the rectangle, then I actually know that my image is scaled to the correct size. Because if I zoom in here, we can see that the edge of the yellow and white is kind of blurry. So these things are not necessarily always super good to use. So let's rebuild this one. I will create a new plane. I will go to the front view. Then I will go to groups and image, import from files, and there are my different views. So maybe start with this one. Very good. Okay. If you make these images nice so that the subject matter is centered, then we also don't have to move the image left and right. I can move this one to there, just zoom in a little bit more, and then very gently nudge this over so this image now is perfectly centered. I want to create a rectangle 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So that's set, and here that's set. I mean, I could make a rectangle. I could also have a left and right. That would be sufficient too. And then I move this one over. One more. Okay, now this is centered. Very good. If I go back to the transform, select my image here, and then I zoom in and I try to find this top point there. Very good. And then I move this one up. Zoom in more, try to center it as good as possible. And now I can use the scale tool to scale this. There. Cool. See? That was pretty easy. This object is, however, a little bit below the ground. So let's go back to move and just simply move the whole object up till this kind of like sits there. Very good. So that was one view. This rectangle now I can remove. Let's do a right view, and I will add an image again. This time we will use this one. This image is also really nice because it shows us a separation line, which I can use to center my image in case you do not have this rectangle. But as you can see, putting that in is really very helpful. So I could now simply go into 3D view, move this one down to there, line this up, move this one to there. Okay. And then I scale this one till everything lines up. There lines up, there lines up. What about here? Yeah, lines up pretty good. Done. Okay. See, super easy, not complicated. These images are pretty opaque, which can be complicating matters to see stuff, so we can also hide them. So to start now, I would like to work on this view. If I tap it, you see we switch to the view where that image is. So how do we build this? It's actually pretty easy. Let's make sure we have snapping turned on. I will draw myself a line, say till there. Zoom in. You see also the more you zoom in, the grid refines, which is pretty great. There. Okay. This other plane was a little bit in my way, so I'm hiding that for a moment. Very good. There. Okay. And now, how do we continue? I only need 50%. So check out this. I can lock this point so it can't be moved. I make sure this line has a horizontal constraint, so it goes straight down, and I will create, for example, a line there. That line is perpendicular. So it's horizontal. And it's up to you now if you want to use the fit point or the control point. I will actually show you the advantage of both. I will use the control point first. So from here, I start drawing and I press and press and press and maybe stop. I need to figure out how many points do I really only need. Also here, the trick is make this as simple as possible. Less is more. The curve we make tangent to that line. So at this point, I can't move up and down. I can only move it left and right. That actually makes sure that once we revolve this shape, the top won't look pinchy. And now I can select all these points and then try to adjust everything till I feel like I'm matching that curve. Okay, so that's the way how you can do this with the CV curves. With the fit point, which the fit point gives in general smoother results, but they're sometimes a little bit more tricky to work. Think about the fit point as kind of like stiff plastic. You can bend and it always has really nice deformations, but it has its mind on its own. So when I move this point, you see how this area, for example, deforms a little bit. And then I can move this point, straighten this out, move this to there. There's really no one is better than the other. It really, I think, can come down to which do you like to work the most with. The grid is really annoying right now, so I turn this off. There, and let's see if I straighten this. I have to pull this one to the left a little bit. Yeah, now we're getting this too. Has a really nice flow. Okay. I measured before that this is, let's see, 57. So I draw a line over, and then this distance has to be 57. Ooh, look at that. We're like off by 0.4 millimeters. So 57.5, let's say this. Good. And I can also draw a line here, because essentially this is a separate part. Now we can measure this and maybe then compare and double check. That seems to be 7 millimeters. So yeah, we're close. So we know actually what we did here with the images, etc., is pretty good. I still want to maybe move this over a tick. Snapping is off. Nah, I'll just keep it. Good. With this done, now we can go ahead and do a revolve. So we revolve this along this axis, and then we do another revolve there, this along this axis. Very good. And this is slightly rounded, so we can fillet this maybe. Okay, let's go to tools and colors. This is white. And then the other, I think, was like a nice yellow or orange. Okay, good. So that view is pretty much done. Also here, we can maybe split elements up. So this base object I put into its own group. I could give it a name. Considering the time we have only, I will skip this step. Let's take a look at how do we do this side cut. So go to here, show this image. So how do we do this? What maybe is not noticeable, and that's a downside of when you work with flat images, this surface is slightly concave. So this needs to be obviously an arc from the side, but seen from the top, it needs to have a big radius too. So I will draw myself a pretty significantly long line, and then tap and tap. Use, for example, the fit curve. This might do what I need. And I select these handles, and then I push this out, and then I try to move this one into the position so it somewhat overlines like this. Let's hope this works. And go back to here. Yep, that's the correct one. Very good. I will also draw a line here. I will go into why I did this just in a moment. And this whole thing I will select and move a little bit inside. Okay. And then it's now trial and error. We'll do a revolve of this around there. Very good. And then we go tools and subtract and cut this one away from it. So a little bit too much. Let's try this one more time. Okay. And then another subtract. Okay. So I'm going to the top view, and then I will make a construction plane. Type offset. We need a face. Okay. Here we will do it this way. I will just quickly draw myself a rectangle there, and this rectangle I extrude out. Then I will double tap that rectangle because I moved the grid up, as you can see. And when I turn on my cut section view, look at that. You see, it is slightly concave. So that's perfect. That's all I wanted to have. So all this can go again. I don't need it anymore. And this line I drew down here, I will use for kind of like rotating this, because I have to do this also to the other side. So now we go transform and rotate this along this axis. Yes, 180 degrees. Very good. And then we cut from that shape. And there we are. Pretty nice. We can add, whoops, nope, colors again. And then finish this with a nice filleting job, so it feels good on our fingers. Maybe 2 millimeters. Okay, very good. I have to look one time, I'm sorry guys, onto my batteries. Oh, we are 4%, very good. So, very good. Because we have 1136, so we should make it with the last 3% battery on my Apple Pencil. So you see that was actually quite easy to do once you just really figure out, well, how did they build it? And that's what I really always enjoy about 3D modeling, taking something that's manufactured and figuring out, how did they do it? And very often I've noticed it's just the same methods. So it's a revolved object, another revolved object, and then they cut these parts out. Now, to the king discipline of this one. This object looks pretty complex, but it really is not. This is actually also super simple. Frankly, when I started trying to figure this out, I had some failed attempts till I realized how simple this actually is. From here, this is actually a circle, And from here, this is an ellipse. So if I, for the moment, go to this, so I can show you actually the sketches first. So that is actually, as you can see, the detail. And the height of this, or the position of the revolve object is not at the bottom, it's actually on top. And then they revolve it, and then the lower part is simply extruded down. So very simple steps. I don't know, we have actually enough time to do all the details. So let's see how far we get. So I will do the same thing here again, make a new design. Let's add an image. And there is this one. I will start with this. Okay. Also there, I know this should be 10 millimeters. So I make myself here a rectangle. Turn snapping back on. There, okay. And now I simply draw myself here 2 lines, because essentially these are defining the left and right boundary, or top and bottom boundary. Let's go back to the move command. Then I move this one to, let's say, there, and we just move this one down, center it. Yeah, that looks pretty close. Also, when you create these images, try to really get into the habit of trying to make these screenshots as big as possible. The more pixels you have, the more you can zoom in. Then I go here to this edge and scale this one up. And there we are. See, very good. All this now I can delete. We don't need it anymore. This was on the ground. And we can do the side view, set back. Let's see. Yep. So back, and come on. There. So here we can use a similar shortcut now. And then there. Let's rotate around. Yeah, this lines up pretty good. And then I move this one up, so it is actually above the ground. Very good. I would like to make, oops, not delete, no, just more transparent. Back. Okay. So I set here at where my pencil is right now, kind of like right there. Oops. Everything on top is the round object, and everything below is the flat part. So I can simply draw myself an ellipse. So I will turn this one off for the moment. I will go to the top view, and let's figure out where is that ellipse. So Shaper now has a new ellipse tool, which is really nice. There it is. So from the center, I draw this one out, maybe till there. And now it's a question of figuring out where is the center point. So 45. No, not yet. What about 35? And bring this one over to there. Okay. Then 25. a 26. Okay, maybe 34. So it's a little bit of trial and error, trying to figure out where is the center of that ellipse by simply trying to finding the correct values. Let's say this for right now is good. Very nice. These two we could lock this one, and then I will draw a line straight down and a line straight up. Make these two vertical, and there we have it. So the side is, as I said, circular. We don't need to draw a circle because essentially when we revolve this, it will be a circle. What you see right now that it's not at the right position yet. So the whole sketch I'm going to move up. And I do this 10 millimeters. Very good. So at that position now I will revolve this. And let's do 180. There. Very nice. See? Let's go to back view. We need to trim this one off. I can draw a line down here and then draw a rectangle and there and there. Okay. And with this rectangle, if I want, I can actually, so it's not on the center line all the time, I will move actually this further down. So I can select this and just extrude up and cut it away. Very good. There. So how do we do the bottom part? Well, as I said, this is just a flat extrusion. I turn all these off for the moment, and I go to extrude, select the bottom face. That was 10 millimeters down because I moved it up 10 millimeters. And we have to join these two together. There. Awesome. Okay. We're making good progress. Let's take a look at this. So here we have some cuts actually. If I lift this one up, you can see this. So I need to insert another image that is going to the right. Okay, let's double check. Yeah. So add image, and we will use maybe this. Okay. Keep this good for a moment. I will set myself another reference plane there. Okay. Then we have the move command. Oops, wrong key. We move this one to there, scale it down, bring this over, bring this up. Okay, that is pretty nice. And let's scale the sides. Okay. And now we have to only bring this one down. Till ideally this actually lines up. See, we can move this one also up and down as needed. So yeah, that seems to do it pretty good. Okay, very nice. So seen from the left then, how do we do this detail? You see here we just have an arc and a horizontal line, and from the side we have our horizontal and a vertical line, and then this cut. So do we cut something from here or from there? This view is actually better. That's the one where it makes sense to do, because we only have to draw actually an outline that is matching that cutout and then position the sketch and cut. So also here, I ignore the fillet, so I draw just a straight line. I will go back to my control point. Drag up, click. And click U to U. Welcome to Shaper. It has an amazing sketching engine. Hold on. Oh, wait. Oh, they went into different planes. My fault. So 1 second. I will actually hide this one. So let's go back to left. There, very good. So that curve and this line I can select and type in 90 degrees. And then even this way we create that this point is tangent to it. Pretty awesome. So we don't always need to have this extra helper line. On this point I move up, and this point I bring over to create this curvature. There, okay. We need a closed shape. So I am finishing, or not finishing, closing this shape. Very good. This now I can hide. I will draw myself a line, and then I will go to construction plane and say through edge at an angle and set -90. Yeah, so I make a plane because the shape I'm going to create, we have to mirror over. We can rotate it over. So this sketch we can move. If I go to the back view, we see where it is, but that's not really where it should be. So we bring this over, let's say to there. Again, you see I move with the grid, snap it to there. Everything makes things a lot easier when we do this. Very nice. Then I make sure I create a new group. So in this group first, I create this object. Then in the same group, I mirror this one over along this plane, make a copy. Because now I can do the cut. So cut, subtract U minus these two. Ta-da, there we are. Awesome. At this point, we're soon wrapping up. I would like to mention something. So in terms of measuring, I can measure the opening kind of like this way. I can also from here maybe push this in, and I have this rounded corner. So I need to figure out where are actually details I can use for correct measuring. I can also, for example, measure from there to there the distance, which means what I wanted to point out is this is a rounded corner. I can't really use it for measurement. I could actually do it. Could do it this way, but it's a little bit bad. This is cleaner. So we can now, if we want to, fillet that corner. So select this there, go to there. And that's probably like a 3 mm rounding. We can use maybe the image as a reference to figure that out. Now, our object, unfortunately, is solid. So that's difficult to see. If we go to color, let's say white, and then we make this transparent, there we now can see through our mesh, and my fillet is a tick too big. Double tapping on that plane, snap back 2 millimeters. Oh no, it was actually not big enough. 3.5. Yeah, they were pretty close. Okay, so what do we do in the last 5 minutes? Maybe here. This is another nice element to show where Shaper is pretty great. So I'm going to create that shape there. I will use my fit point curve in this case. And click, drag, close this, and then I just have to adjust the position of these, turn the grid off in this case, and move this around till everything sits really well. I will hide this one, extrude this one up. This was one direction. Hey, check this out. This is really awesome. So 37 on one direction. If I click this, now it tells me from up there 37. So 37 plus 37 is 74. 74 there. Great. So I extruded one time, and then by selecting the opposite face, it created me the ability, or gave me the ability to do this symmetrical. So this we will cut out. So subtract from you, please, this one. But I don't want necessarily to lose that extrusion. So I click keep original there. I will go back to color and make this back white so it's easier to see. Pretty sweet. So tool and replace face. Let's check something out. This face with this face. Oh, you see that? It moved it to there and adjusted that face. So no trimming. Autodesk, take that. There. Awesome. And we might only have to move this face then out. Let's go to the top view, move. I want to go to the grid, and then we stretch this one out. By snapping to the grid, you can see the move widget got oriented, so it's horizontal. Okay, so the time is kind of up, but I hope that the process pretty much explains it. If you would like to continue studying how everything here was built, the models you can download has all the sketches included, so you do not only have the finished 3D model. So that should then help you to understand how I structured my process.